Hey guys, and welcome back to the Q&A. So this time it is going to be about 5-man dungeons. Now, a while ago I was asked what my wish list was for the next expansion, and this really comes in 3 points. Now, I do just want to say the third point may address some issues that you might have with point 1 and 2. So it's just important to stay for the entire video before you leave a comment. Now, 5-mans were something that were very much neglected in Mists of Pandaria. They only released a few of them. I think there was only 6 new ones at max level, which was really shitty, and they didn't add more as the expansion went on. They said that that was so they don't compromise the quality of the raids, which I suppose is a fair enough design goal, especially since they were adding, they were sort of improving, I suppose, LFR and adding in flexible difficulty. So here's my idea. I think they need to apply the heroic scenario principle. So you have your regular leveling dungeons, then you have your max level dungeons, which would work the same level as the same way that Mists of Pandaria 5-man heroics do. But then on top of that, you have a version which is hard, and it has a group requirement, just like heroic scenarios. And really, in terms of difficulty, a little bit like the Cataclysm dungeons, but tuned perhaps a little bit less, just enough so that it makes sense for a group environment. Now, the Mists of Pandaria 5-mans were rendered irrelevant very quickly, and in Cataclysm they were painful to do in a pug. So that really did suck. Now, the way that I would have it so that you still have your standard pre-raid gear progression with normal level 90 dungeons, and these would give you, say, the equivalent of your blues, which would then take you into LFR or something like that. Now, there would also be progression that gives a lower item level than Flex or LFR in the sense of the level 90 hard mode dungeons. These are ones that are harder and they require group, and they give epics, or perhaps even the final boss just gives an epic that's on par with Flex and LFR. Now, this would mean that players who don't like LFR and don't have the time to do organized raiding, but still want to have that social gameplay experience that difficult content can give, or at least relatively difficult, or requires communication. These people would now have something to do, and they would still be decently hard. They have things like crowd control, stuff like that. Now, the Cataclysm dungeons were actually really great in a guild group, but where they broke down was in a random group with little communication. So what I would do is make sure that these hard mode dungeons, which give really nice gear, are only, you can only do them in a group with other people. Now, what this does is it doesn't take anything away. You still have the standard dungeon progression where you hit 90, you do your level 90 dungeons to get your decent gear, and then perhaps from that you can maybe do the level 90 hard mode dungeons, the new difficulty level that I'm giving. I'm a little bit concerned that, what we call level 90 heroic, I would probably have level 90 heroic being my hard mode and then just have level 90 normal. I suppose you can see how it's might be a little bit confusing, but if you think it over, it will make sense. So basically, I would have 3 tiers. You have pre-level 90 difficulty of the dungeons. Then you have max level dungeons, max level starter dungeons, which are just, in terms of difficulty, equivalent to the current Mists of Pandaria heroic dungeons. And then after that, you have the hard ones that require a pre-formed group. And I think this would just reinvigorate interest and challenge in 5-mans, because 5 people is a great format to do hard content in. You have a healer, a tank, 3 DPS, and there's quite a bit of diversity going on there. Now, of course, it's very important that it doesn't feel like this is 100% the best optimal way to do things, so heroic scenarios would still be present. Now, in terms of difficulty, just to sum it up, I would have the easiest from easiest to hardest. It would be pre-90, then normal scenarios, then 90 dungeons, then heroic scenarios, and then my version of heroic dungeons. So I think this would give a new pre-raid curve, and would actually, and here's the really exciting thing to me, it would add a pre-raid endgame. That's not something we have. LFR, perhaps you don't like it. You don't like LFR, but you want challenging content. For the people who maybe want to do flexible, but they can't get challenging content because they don't have enough people around them. Well, you then have these hard 5-player heroic dungeons, which reward nice gear in return for your skill and a little bit of time. I think that would be great. Now, another facet to this is that I think they should add more 5-mans into the game. Now, they did say the team was expanding by 40%, so this would not be at the detriment to other content. And I would have this at either new 5-mans coming in a raid patch, or in between raid patches. Hell, they could even expand, branch the story between 2 raid patches with some 5-mans in the middle. That could be really interesting, couldn't it? So that's pretty cool. Now these would be harder, much like the endgame the endgame Wrath of the Lich Kings were. Now if you don't remember, in Wrath of the Lich King, in the Fall of the Lich King patch, they added 3 new 5-man heroic dungeons, and these were considerably harder, and they rewarded nice gear. Now, this would be really good because you could add additional harder 5-mans, which are even harder than the basic level 90 of my heroic dungeons. These would be even harder. They would still require a pre-required group, all that stuff, and this would mean that in terms of the difficulty of your content, you have even more progression for people who just want to do these 5-mans, which I think would be great. So Blizzard said they did say that adding new 5-mans meant that everyone would only do the new ones because they rewarded the best gear. Well, if they're much harder and require a preformed group and have a minimum item level, then I think this could actually be handled in a balanced manner. Now they also said it would be very easy. There would also be a very easy version of these new dungeons added in with they're just kind of normal, regular level 90 ones. They give half decent gear. That way, high item level characters can get upgrades from the harder version. Let's just call it the hard mode version, while lower max level characters, lower item level max level characters, can still get some new scenery with their 5-mans. This is really hard to construct my opinions on, or just talk about. You can probably tell it because it's just hard to get the right words, I suppose. So whether some of these new 5-mans should be hard mode only, I'm not sure, although it would certainly be nice in some respects, because that way there'd be some content which is a little bit harder that still requires some work to get to. I'm not sure though, so I think you guys should just think it out in the comments and we'll see. Now the third thing I want to say is scaling. Now they have some awesome new scaling tech in the game. Perhaps they can make 5-mans actually 4 to 6 people. They could just call them dungeons. And now that way people who don't have the 5 specific people that you need can still get a group together to do some of these level 90 dungeons. Which would be nice, it would add some flexibility. So there you go, to sum it up, basically, and I know I don't think I did a very good job of communicating it in an effective manner, but what you would have is, when you're leveling up your character, let's just say from 90 to 100, you have dungeons there. When you hit level 100, you can do the equivalent in terms of difficulty of Mists of Pandaria heroic dungeons, but in our game, in level 100, we're just going to call them level 100 normal dungeons. And then after that, in terms of dungeons, you'll have level 100 heroic dungeons, and these are ones which require a pre-made group, they're pretty hard, and they drop gear that's either on par with LFR, perhaps a little bit worse, but they are hard. That's the important bit. They're like the Cataclysm dungeons in that they require a decent bit of skill and coordination, and they're designed for a guild group. I think that's the best way to do it. That way it just offers new content to everyone in a manner that doesn't take content away from people. So there you go. I'm not really too sure, if this video doesn't turn out that well, or maybe people are a bit confused, I might do a quicker, more concise, cleared up version, but I just want to get my thoughts out there to see what people would think. If you do have any questions about this, please leave them in the comments. I'll be more than happy to clear up any misconceptions or confusion you may have over the kind of system I propose. And if you want to see your question answered in one of the Q&As, do leave a comment, and I'll add it to my list and I'll work through them all. Anyway, that's it for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.